Hello, everybody, and welcome to It's the Liquor Talking right here on WCRN AM 830. And as usual, it's myself, Ryan Maloney, as your host. And of course, the incomparable Mr. Randall J. Bird, Spirits Medium to the Gods, is here.
That's right. But we're also joined by another mystery kind of guest. And I'm always a little bit concerned because it means I think that my job is in jeopardy. So could you introduce us?
He's way too busy to take over anybody else.
I feel a little bit better.
You are absolutely fine.
This is let me introduce Rob Mellion, who is the executive director to the Massachusetts Package Store Owners Association, and the guy who's heading up Vote Yes on 3. The whole ballot question is all from the Massachusetts Package Store Association, 700 members strong, of all independent, mom and pop, all that type of stuff. And we're going to get into that pretty good.
A whole show devoted to that. But, I'm a stickler for one detail. What is the drink of the show? We have to have something in our cups and have this kind of discussion.
So I poured some of this into each of your cups today. And this is Telebardine, age 12 years old. This is the double wood, matured in bourbon and sherry cask. This is done at 40 ABV.
Yep.
This guys, try this. Tell me what you think.
Yeah. Well, what we put in our coffee mugs is nobody's business, but we're happy to tell you that today,
yes,
it is Tullamore. This is a single malt from the Highland region of Scotland. And I've had a few sips already, and it is quite tasty.
Yeah, this stuff is really good. What do you think? What do you think, Rob?
This is good.
Yeah.
Smooth.
And it's got some nice deep flavors going on.
Really good flavor, great aroma.
Yeah. And here's the best part of this. This is one I just tried yesterday, and I was just totally floored by how good this tasted. The best part about this is under $50.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Because this tastes like an $80 bottle.
Yeah. I mean, it's, there's other products that are out there right now that do it like a double wood, like similar to what they're doing.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Outstanding.
But this one, the price on this, we're all watching our pennies. This is a good place to do it. Telebardine, 12-year-old, their double wood. It's in an orange box with the orange thing on it. Definitely should be looking for
the
that.
The flavor stays with you too. It's
really good. That's
really
good.
It's very complex. And I think it's just the type of thing that we need to springboard into a very complex issue, which is the Yes on 3 initiative for the voting that's coming up in just a few short weeks.
Yeah.
Well, Yes on 3 is very simple, actually. It's the opposition is trying to make it complex, but it's very simple. And that's part of what they're trying to do is confuse everybody.
Let's say this first.
Take something good away from them.
Exactly. Yes on 3 is safe. It adds convenience to get liquor, but in the expansion of alcohol sales. But it also has safety in mind in the communities that it's sold.
Yep, it does that safely. That's
the big thing now. Now, what we have in front of us is 700 members, like I said, all mom and pop convenience stores, grocers, traditional liquor stores, smaller package stores, wine specialty stores.
May I talk to that very quickly?
Yeah, absolutely.
So I want to raise this because, again, there's a lot of misinformation being pushed to voters to get them to vote no. And one of them is about who MassPack is and about who filed this question.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's real important.
This is very important. So the Massachusetts Package Stores Association is a group of businesses that have a common factor to them all. Every single one of our members is headquartered in the state of Massachusetts.
Oh, okay.
That's the one factor. Yep. So a very diverse membership, as you said, convenience stores, markets, and liquor stores and specialty stores who all sell alcohol off premise. They all do that, but they all are, the one thing that is important is for them to be a member of MassPack, they are headquartered in Massachusetts. These are Massachusetts companies employing Massachusetts people who are living amongst the stores themselves. They're living in the communities that sell the product.
Yeah. Right. And that's really important because all of a sudden what's popping up now is there's television ads and there's flyers that make it seem like a vote for no would be to help small stores. But then And here's the real confusing fact. You look at who it's paid for, and it says Massachusetts Fine Wine and Spirits LLC.
I just addressed this very issue with a group just a few minutes ago before we were doing the show here in talking with them because it's creating confusion.
Right.
There's one group who is throwing over $3 million into Massachusetts and millions of dollars into other states to change alcohol laws to their favor, is trying to represent itself as a Massachusetts small business, and they are not.
This
There's
is,
nothing small business in
but
Massachusetts
they're
about it.
claiming that they're Massachusetts Fine Wine and Spirits LLC. Is that correct?
Who is based, their corporate headquarters is in Bethesda, Maryland. And
So
that
they're-
is in their Massachusetts registry. So it's Massachusetts Fine Wine Spirits LLC
Yeah.
Is not
in-
from
in
Massachusetts.
Bethesda, Maryland.
Okay.
So they're not here. They
So
have
it-
stores here,
Well, I know
but their
that,
management is in Maryland.
So it
I
begs
know
the
that
question.
Maryland kind of runs a bunch of stores around the country under the name Total Wine. Is this who we're ultimately talking about?
It's not even the parent company. That is the company.
That is the company. Okay. So Total Wine has mounted a campaign against what was a grassroots Massachusetts-based retailer campaign to vote yes, and they're asking people to vote no.
And, yeah, and which is fine. I mean, they have the right
have
to
the
do.
right.
They have the. We want to explain that they have the right to do this. I mean,
Yeah,
no
I'm not-
no one's saying that they couldn't do that. When we say group, we mean one store, by the way.
So in every state in this country, everybody has a right, including the people who work for and who own Total Wine. Everybody has a right to vote and to advocate for what it is that, is important to them. But nobody has a right to misrepresent and to lie.
Right.
And that's the distinction.
And
It
they're
really
just,
does coming off that it's the small. They're out to protect Main Street USA. That's what this
that's what
stuff
they're
is
pro-
that's
promoting.
that
There's-
no does
And
protects
there's-
Main Street USA, but that could be farther from the truth.
Coming from the company that, has been repeatedly trying to blow up Massachusetts regulations on alcohol beverages, legislative session after legislative session after legislative session. And then, case in point, back in 2014, when the ABCC cited Total Wine for illegally selling in the state with illegal discounting schemes, they sued the ABCC. They didn't like the fact that they were cited by the ABCC. So rather than accept the fine, they sued the ABCC, took it all the way to the Supreme Judicial Court and lost.
Yeah.
So again, you just lost before the SJC. So you think that they would, I don't know, want to make amends or make things better, at least accept the fine and move on. They literally, the next legislative session, refile legislation that would overturn the SJC's decision.
Right.
That's the company we're talking about here.
So you have an out of state company. By the way, is you're slightly said it's over 2 million. It's closing in on $3 million. I have to point this out that the people that belong to MassPack, many of them their gross sales for the year don't equal $2 million. And it was just thrown in as sort of like, oh, we might even be up to 3. I was saying we're probably going to see more.
the mailer. I love the mailer with the devil in it.
Yeah, because the only one that's being deceptive, I think, right now is the person that just sent out the flyer,
Yeah.
which is Massachusetts Fine Wine LLC.
Who's really Total Wine?
Yeah, well,
Say you're Total Wine, say you're from Maryland, and say that you
Move
just
on.
don't like the laws because they're not going to help
Well,
them. But that's kind of what you're
Just say,
trying to address.
just say
with it. Yeah.
we want to control the marketplace in Massachusetts. We feel we have a right to it. Fine, you have a right to say that. Just say it.
but the thing was, is I thought it was very funny. Their spokesperson says that they didn't want to hide behind a committee, which is what we had to do because we have so many. There's 700.
Well,
We
it's
have so many.
It's the
You had
to use
Massachusetts
a
law.
committee.
Well,
we had to use a committee. But
it's
they're
the
saying
Massachusetts law that you have to use a committee.
if you have a bunch of people doing it,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And but he made it sound like it was like, well, we didn't want to do that
No,
because we don't want to hide behind a committee. And the funny part about that is that, yeah, but you didn't use Total Wine either, which everybody knows
Yeah.
in the state. You used the LLC name instead.
No, what they intentionally did was they had the committee spend no money. So it looked like there was no competition, no opposition. And then they come in quietly with, at that time, $2.1 million and start running ads and put a mailer out to the entire, population of the state
Right.
that completely misrepresented. So yeah,
Well, yeah,
It's-
welcome. But there'll be robocalls.
Get
there'll
ready
be more
because more's
mailers.
coming.
There'll be
It's
more.
fine.
There'll be more
but
ads.
it's fine. It's fine.
That's
they have
fine,
a right
but-
to do it.
But we have to make sure that people know that the ballot question was actually started by mom and pop stores, Massachusetts-based stores that want this to basically stabilize the whole thing.
So I think the part that's rich to the whole issue with Total Wine is how they are trying to spin themselves as a mom and pop in Massachusetts. That's
Right.
what you're getting to.
Yeah, I think
And that's
so.
the part that's false.
Yep.
They are not. They're not from Massachusetts. They're not headquartered in Massachusetts. They have outlets in Massachusetts, but that's it. And they are definitely not on the same scale or are thinking the same way as other companies in Massachusetts.
All right, Randall, get us out of here. We have to
Yeah,
let's take a break,
sheesh.
but we'll be back.
A lot of heavy stuff here on It's the Liquor Talking. We're talking about the yes on 3 vote that's coming up, and we're all in favor of it. But let's get some more details when we return on the other side of this commercial break.
All right, we'll be back. I stopped it, which is great. Now I'm going to start again, play the music.
Are we stopping the recording?
I'm sorry. I mean, I just stopped the recording. I'm going to do another one.
Right. Well, I'm just saying we got
Yep.
4 segments instead of 1 blob.
Yep, exactly. So when we start the recording again, we'll come back. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to WCRN AM 830. And it's the Liquor Talking. We're here with Rob Mellion, who's the executive director of the Massachusetts Package Store Owners Association, and some guy named Randall.
Yeah.
He's here too.
And we're taking a deep dive into some territory that we normally try and stay away from. We like to drink, we like to talk about alcohol, and we try and stay away from politics, but we're in the necessary and important step of kind of dissecting this vote yes for November 8th.
Early voting starts now.
As I like to say, we're definitely biased in this because we've looked at the issue and we're all in favor of vote yes, but we want people to be able to have a discussion and also hear both sides of the argument. So you're going to hear some of the reasons that we
Well,
like
you're gonna
the
hear
yes.
why we think obviously we think you should would vote yes on this.
When we
Well,
last left our intrepid
Right.
listeners, we were talking about how there's some kind of faffery around how people are presenting themselves in this argument. And the one thing that we didn't talk about is that a lot of the companies that would like to see a no on the initiative are not based in Massachusetts. The people who promoted the yes on vote yes on 3
and
are
yes, and wrote 3.
wrote it and
Yep.
made sure that they wanted to go are from Massachusetts and believe that it's in Massachusetts residents' best interests. But the thing that we didn't talk about is that any of these large corporations that are kind of outside of the Massachusetts are going to pull the money that they make for profit out of the state. Whereas you, Ryan, as a liquor store owner, or other people in MassPack or other stores in the state are going to put it back into their community, back into the taxes and the structure of the community as well.
We live here. We are here, and the other thing is that if something happens, the authorities can find us pretty easily. We're right here in Massachusetts. We live in the community that we serve, and that's sort of it. And to your point, Randall, you're exactly right.
So that's not just a statement. There's substance to it. The substance is that not only is Total Wine trying to get question 3 voted down so that it can then put forward its bills that will change things in their favor here in Massachusetts. So not only are they pumping millions of dollars into Massachusetts, but simultaneously they are trying to blow up Colorado.
Oh yeah, I saw the thing in Colorado. They had 11 million already in Colorado to expand their licenses.
Which is
there.
a similar type of initiative.
Literally,
Yeah.
so you're
Yeah,
putting,
they're
you're
they're
putting
trying
almost
to
3
expand
million into
licenses.
Massachusetts, and then simultaneously you're putting 11 million, and the owners are putting in 4 million of their money on top of the 11 million. That's
Wow.
a company. That's a company that's just able to throw money around. That's just in 2 states.
So you're talking about
Has
over
nothing to do with the litigation that they got going on in other states. That has nothing to do with
Right.
all the lobbying that they got
yeah,
going
but
on.
you're talking about in 2 states, you have or close to, or if not over $18 million invested in a path to more licenses for market control.
But to Randall's point, they're taking money that they gained from outside of Massachusetts and are pouring it into Massachusetts to reshape Massachusetts so that they have marketplace control. And then they're doing that all across the country.
Right.
It's not money from Massachusetts in Massachusetts.
Well, and I think that that's one of the things that bugs me the most about this Massachusetts fine wine and spirits. It has nothing to do with Massachusetts. They're just using it. And now,
It's appearance sake.
I don't know.
For appearance sake,
Let's
again.
get into
got a
some,
right
of,
to do
some of the topics inside the
Okay, so let's
vote yes.
all right. So let's talk about start going through.
Yeah, because
it.
this is a great ballot question. This does a lot of stuff for communities and consumers.
Okay.
Okay.
And it's something that mom and pop stores across the state support.
Right.
And by the way, we're getting to the point now where communities across the state are supporting it with endorsements.
Oh yeah. I mean, we've been getting endorsements. So, by the way,
They're pouring in. They're literally pouring in.
bipartisan endorsements.
Yes.
Both Republicans and Democrats are both saying yes on 3, which is fantastic.
That
You
was
can go.
And now we're starting to hear from leadership as well.
That's great. Leadership in the legislature.
Yeah.
That which is great. All right. So
And
let's-
mayors, and we're getting it. We just got another endorsement from a mayor just a couple of minutes ago.
Awesome. That's really good. Okay, so here's what it does. It expands the number of beer and wine licenses and caps the number of full liquor licenses an individual can own. It does not create any new licenses that are available locally. The new configuration would still represent most licenses allowed amongst the 23 similar 3-tier states. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So right now you can have 9, correct? You can have
Yes.
nine licenses. They can either be beer or wine, or they can be full liquor, but you're capped at 9.
Whatever it is that the local licensing authority
Right.
allows for you.
And then, so this one would basically move that to 18 beer and wine licenses, but only 7 of which could be full
Not in
liquor.
the community itself, not in the single community.
Right, not in a
I think that's
single community.
important. You
It's
get
across
one.
the
You
state.
get one in the community.
That's right.
Because there's some confusion happens over the quota system. There's a state quota system and there's a local quota system. And that's intentional. It's to prevent marketplace control, because marketplace control of a regulated product like alcohol has historically always led to bad outcomes,
That's
including
true.
corruption.
At one point, it led to prohibition.
So
Well,
so
during
while,
prohibition, it led to organized crime.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they.
but while we're looking at this, I think a lot of people are trying to dissect, the number, the community, what the license is for, beer, wine versus the harder liquor. But if I were to try and categorize this issue, it's that Massachusetts stores have put forth a proposal that will allow for the expansion without losing anything in controlled way over the next few years, versus what the opposition is saying, that we want to have no holds barred and be
Yes.
able to dump as many stores as fast as we can into the communities
that's
for
pretty
them
accurate.
to suck out the
That-
money
that's-
out to international or
pretty
and
accurate.
national
That
things.
is not pretty. That is spot on accurate.
But
if you
this-
look at the bills that are in play this legislative session that we were able to beat down, that's exactly what they do.
Right.
They open it wide up and they just
By
blow
brute
apart the system.
force, they're going to come in and try and smash the little guy and then pull all the money. And what you're talking about is controlling the market in a way that allows them to do pricing, supply chain, control, and things that make it much harder
Yeah.
for the Massachusetts-based stores
Well-
as it gets in place farther down the road too.
Right.
It's not just while we want to have it now, we want to actually control it for the future.
And this is not fear mongering. It is absolutely historically accurate to say that there is a bad history associated with marketplace control.
Right.
That is not fear mongering. That is the result of when you have marketplace control, you are able to reverse induce suppliers and wholesalers
You can
to
tell them
force
what
them
to do.
to do your will.
Yeah, you can tell them
Exactly.
what to do. If
That's
you
what
have enough,
inducement
if you have
is.
enough stores,
Yes.
you can force that. So having and
Of a
what the-
regulated product with a bad history.
by saying you can go up to 18 beer and wine licenses over a period of time, it's allowing those people that are out of state that want to, and people in state that want to expand, it allows that to happen. but in a controlled manner.
So
Yeah.
the laws and regulations are designed in a way right now that they maintain a balance, which the result of the balance is fair play. That's what these out-of-state chains are trying to blow apart. They want to offset the balance and have unfettered access and control of the marketplace.
Right.
Question 3 is tailored to strengthen the balance. That's what they don't want.
And here's the thing.
And this
that
is why they're opposing it.
Yes, yes. And here's the other part of this too. Right now it is 9, and we're trying to move full liquor to 7 and beer and wine to 18.
Yes.
If somebody has over the 7, they have 8, or maybe they might have 9 by the time this goes into
Their
effect,
grandfather.
they'd be grandfathered. We're not going to take no one's license is going to go anywhere.
But
And-
I think that one of the things that when you get into this and you start talking about the numbers and it becomes confusing, which is what I think the opposition wants,
Yes.
because they're going to like nitpick on the fact that you don't understand that the state versus the
Town
local
and-
to the number versus the expansion versus controlled expansion. So while people are rearranging the deck chairs with the numbers on what they're doing as the Titanic's going down, they're
Yes.
missing the bigger issue is that large multinational or national corporations want to come into Massachusetts and not have any controls or limits being placed on them. But this voting ballot initiative is designed so that you can allow for expansion, which is going to be the future, but in a controlled way that
That's right.
doesn't let them run roughshod and just bully
Right.
the smaller
And it
concerns.
lets the
protects-
consumer have
exactly.
convenience.
Right.
While-
It gives convenience while protecting communities.
But I hear people talking about these numbers, and then that's where I'm seeing
People
mistakes
gloss over,
getting made
right.
because it's just, do you want to have somebody come into Massachusetts, or do you want to have something that the Massachusetts citizenship and retail owners have put forth because they think that this is the way that it's going to help everybody?
Well, this actually does both, but what
Yeah.
it basically does is it gives everybody a level playing field so that no one person can control the market.
Right. And that's not what a bigger conglomerate
Corporate would
wants. They
want,
want
right.
the advantage. Yeah.
So, and that's where it sort of is hitting. So I think we got to take a little bit of a break, but
One
go ahead.
last thing,
Yep.
because this is important too. I've heard it repeatedly that stores don't want competition. That is crap. That's absolute crap. Our board, for example, at MassPac, you're all competitors.
We compete against each other.
Exactly.
But we're-
Competition is not the issue here. It's about unfair competition.
That's correct. You are absolutely correct.
And
On
question
that,
3 restores balance to a system that is tilting off balance due to all the
All right.
all the
Wow.
disruption.
So much information packed into It's the Liquor Talking, but we're going to have to take a break and just process that. We'll be back on the other side with more information.
so we're into the next segment. So I think in the next segment we do prohibit self-checkout and then get into the fines.
Yeah.
Well, let's start with the self-checkout. We can do the last one in the last segment. So, okay. All right. All right. So here we go. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to It's the Liquor Talking right here on WCRN AM 830. And I have I don't know if distinguished. Rob's distinguished, but
Yes.
Randall and I, not so much.
I'm what's called the least common denominator on the table here.
Well, we're here with Rob Mellion, the executive director to MassPac, going over what we're saying is vote yes on question 3, but we're dissecting question 3 now. And we started talking about the licenses and so forth, but I'd like to get into what else question 3 does. And one of the things it does, it prohibits self-checkout of alcoholic beverages. And I think people get a little confused. There's no self-checkout. It has to be a sort of face-to-face interaction. And a lot of people go like, well, the machines beep and then they get carded. And
No.
what a lot of people don't understand is there's a lot more that needs to happen at the checkout than just checking an ID. And it's when you have one person looking over 20 self-checkout lanes, it doesn't really equate, because you also have to look out for intoxication, and you have to look out for second party sales, which is a person that's old enough buying alcohol for somebody who's younger. And right now there's articles all over the place about abuse of self-checkout.
Yeah, people are pulling barcodes off of item A and attaching them onto item B and running item B through self-checkout.
Yeah.
That's happening all across the country right
I
now,
mean,
not just
Wegmans-
in Massachusetts.
Wegmans just got rid of their self-checkout app because it was being abused. And the funny part about is we know Walmart just had this huge scandal and scam that were running through self-checkouts, and they announced that they were going to put more self-checkouts in.
Right.
Listen, it comes down to this. You can't buy cigarettes, you can't buy prescription drugs, you can't buy cannabis at a self-checkout station. So, I mean, why should you be able to another regulated substance, which is alcohol, should not be allowed to?
By
go
the
through
way,
that?
people don't like self-checkout.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yep.
There are, believe it or not, there are people that I think they like the second ring of hell too, but they they somehow say they like self-checkout. And it's like, can you see the abuses that could happen? I mean, there's a gaping hole.
Well, there's
in the
a bunch
system
of stuff
of making sure that people
So,
get sold alcohol correctly.
I've always been of the opinion that if you have an app, it doesn't really solve problems. It just gives the illusion of convenience, right? So you're going to be able to check out and walk through and do this and that. And then, oh, it's going to check my ID to make sure the date's there. But is it your ID or have you handed it off to somebody?
Exactly.
The
That's one
second
of the
thing
ways-
is, well,
yes.
they can put facial recognition and it can check to the ID and then do this and that. And then I'm like, yes, but is it checking to see if you're intoxicated? Because every one of your employees, Ryan, has to check and see. You have to make a judgment call, right? Because
No,
you can't
there's all the
continue for
time.
safety reasons. And there's no way that a machine or a computer is going to be able to do that. That isn't going to be extremely expensive and far into the future.
Well, here you go. Extremely expensive and far into the future, but extremely expensive. If you can allow self-checkout, then you're at an advantage because you don't have to pay a payroll.
Right.
I mean, that's really why they want self-checkout.
Yes.
And that's one of the reasons that
But
you
don't
do that.
But don't you have to have all your customers, all your sales clerks or register people have to go through training, right? To
Correct.
recognize IDs and this and that. So
So in my free time, I'm the administrator of the alcohol beverage training course for the state. I certify all the stores, including markets and convenience stores.
we're all certified here.
And
Yeah.
non-members of MassPac take our course too, including some of the opponents. They use us for
And they
their
should
certification
use
training.
it because
Yes.
it's
Not all of
that
them, but some of
important.
them
But it's that important.
The reason why I said this is because I can tell you with certainty, self-checkout doesn't work.
right.
It just does not work. And it's not going to allow a store to be compliant. It's going to raise risk without any question, hands down. It's a bad idea. And we take it off the table because it is a direct road to illegal sales.
Right.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that question 3 does.
Okay.
No
No automated checkout.
automated checkout. And I think
And by the way, if you're in a self-checkout lane, very easy. You take the alcohol product and you take it over to I'm sure that somebody there will take it over for you and run it at another register and then bring it back to you. That's what they used to do in the old days when you had somebody who was not of age running
I'm going to
the
give you an
checkout
answer
stand.
total thing
Yeah.
on that too, because people are checking IDs. We had somebody that
This is
wasn't.
not an inconvenience. It's not like you're not going to be able to shop at the
That's right.
store. This
Well,
is
the
crap.
person that was checking to make sure when it beeped for alcohol, the customer had to push it through, scan it, because the person that was checking it wasn't of age. So, I mean, that could be an isolated instance,
Yeah.
but what I'm saying is it creates holes that really don't need to be there.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. Because
Bad
you are
idea.
dealing with a regulated
No
substance. period.
automated checkout. And most people are going to understand that that's impossible to really make work correctly. Okay.
Correct.
So question 3 also will increase fines and penalties if a store sells alcohol to a minors or for other infractions. These penalties are based on gross sales, which will result in higher fines for multi-channel retail that are comparable to those of single channel alcohol. So basically it's economies to scale. So everybody, the fine is based on the gross sales, whether they're alcohol sales or not.
Let's take a step back so that
Okay.
everybody watching and listening understands. First off, the laws on punitive action against a store that has broken the law were written in the 1970s.
Okay.
Let's deal with that one first. In the 1970s, it was just liquor stores who were selling alcohol off
Correct.
premise.
And the gross sales were just liquor.
Exactly. So the fine in lieu of suspension of license.
All right, I'm going to shut down for 2. They're going to shut me down for 2 days, or I could pay this fine
Right.
and stay open.
Yes.
Okay.
So the default is the suspension.
Right.
The fine in lieu of suspension is calculated off of your alcohol sales.
Okay.
Intentionally, back in the 1970s, when it was promulgated to be punitive. it was intended to teach the store a lesson. Don't engage in illegal sales. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Oh,
We like the music.
Yes.
Don't engage in illegal sales. This is, but it's,
So,
but it's,
but it was
there to do
intended
that.
to prevent stores from engaging in illegal activity.
Right.
So it was, as I said, it was punitive. Now jump into the 21st century when multi-channel retail started selling alcohol in Massachusetts due to changes in the law. The fine structure is 1970s fine structure, now dealing with the 21st century retail model with multi-channel retail.
And the alcohol is all over the store. It isn't like I remember when I was a kid.
Alcohol
it
is
was
a
like,
leader for other sales in these box
right.
stores.
So it's like in the
There's islands of alcohol.
Yeah, there's stuff in the
Unattended.
the meat counter, the discounter. So you're intensive in all intents and purposes. You're licensed for that space, whatever it may be, and whatever you sell in it. You're licensed to sell alcohol in that space. So therefore, that is a liquor store.
But the
Right.
point is that the intent of the legislature, and I was just talking with one of the chairs, one of the chairmen
Mhm.
at the state legislature about this. The intent of the legislature was that the fine in lieu of the suspension was intended to be punitive.
Right.
Don't engage in illegal activity.
Right.
right. And I just like to reduce stuff down to my simple brain being able to process it. But this to me is about accountability.
Yes.
Back in the day, if you were a store owner, it hurt. There was a big pinch to you making a mistake because it was based on all your gross sales, right? That was everything that you were making, and it would really
One hit was your
you.
net profit for the year.
Right. Now you go to a supermarket or a big chain, and 10% of their sales is the alcohol, and 90% of it that it's not going to hurt them at all. They're just going to shift the
Well,
money
to a
to do
company-
whatever.
I'm sorry to jump in, but to a company
Yeah.
that's thrown $11 million in Colorado and almost $3 million
Exactly.
into Massachusetts, that's a laugh to them.
So there's no real accountability or punitive structure to these bigger stores because they're just going to shift money around, or it's on a smaller percentage. But what you're proposing is if it goes onto the entire business of the store where the alcohol is taking place in all aspects of the store, it really will be a pinch or really put the hurt on them for doing that. That's why they don't want it, because they don't want it. Well, just
In
do the
order to
minimum
change,
that-
in order to change behavior, the penalty has to be big enough for you to change that behavior. If you want the people to take alcohol sales seriously, that don't really necessarily are not in the alcohol business, but they are now.
and
They-
you're willing as a retailer though to take the hit because you're a
This is what we
responsible
do.
person,
Yeah, but this is what we do.
but they don't want to.
No. And so
Right.
what you're getting at is if you'd like to be in the alcohol business and you're in the alcohol business, that's fine. It comes down to ancillary and necessity. It's a necessity for us to sell alcohol. It's a necessity. It's an ancillary product for everybody else. But
So why would they be serious about it?
they need to be serious about
Right.
that.
Exactly.
And that's really the difference. Randall.
Okay.
I think that's pretty good summation of that.
Yeah.
Don't engage in illegal sales. Staff up.
You,
Train
you
your
need-
staff.
But that's
train your
the
staff,
gross,
and you need
the
to do all the
gross,
stuff.
You want to change it
It's
so
not
that they're held
draconian, but
accountable.
it's not
Right.
draconian. I mean, the arguments against this are completely fabricated.
Right.
So it's not draconian. It's not draconian to these superstores that are engaged here. The other thing,
It's harsher to the small.
the other thing
retailer.
is to a multi-channel store, the store itself is not going to close. They're going to continue to be open. They're just
Right.
going to
They
pay a
could
higher
take, they
fine.
could actually take the suspension and still operate business.
That's right, because they're not be able to sell the alcohol. That's what
Right.
the suspension is on. They're not going to be closed on a snow day.
Right.
That's garbage. That's
Right.
absolute garbage. That is not.
So even if they
that
took the
is not.
suspension,
That
they
is not
should
in the
stay
ballot
open.
question because I helped write the ballot question. I know what's actually in it. I
That's
wrote it.
right. That's right.
So that's
So-
garbage.
All right.
That's
Randall,
a lie.
we got one more segment to go and we got to finish up this, but we have to take a break.
Well, I'm on the edge of my seat to find out what that final segment is, but you'll have to come back on the other side of this commercial break to It's the Liquor Talking and the Yes on 3 initiative that's coming up for vote.
Okay. So in this last segment, we basically, all we have left is the out-of-state IDs, correct?
Yeah.
Yes.
So Randall, you had a pretty good idea. Let's do the out-of-state IDs. And then for the last half of this is sort of like,
Just
Do
do
like a
recap
summation.
of like,
do it like a summation
Yeah.
of like for people to understand it easier.
right.
Right. So let's do,
That'd be good.
we'll talk about the basic stupidity of not being able to accept an out-of-state ID.
Right.
and then we'll go in to say, okay, so here's what it is.
Okay.
All right. Does that sound good?
Yep.
Okay, so here we go. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to It's the Liquor Talking right here on WCRN AM 830. And we are talking about question 3 that's on the November ballot. November 8th is your voting time. You can vote early on this. Make sure you get your mail-in votes in. But we're talking about question 3. We think you should be voting yes. We're here with Rob Mellion, who's the executive director to the Massachusetts Package Store Owners Association. We got Randall Bird, who's been he is sort of our man on the street. He even though he has knowledge of all this stuff, he has been, we're explaining it to him so he understands it. And I think that's been working.
Well, I guess
really
you guys are so involved with this.
Yeah,
this is
we're
important to
blinded.
you. You've worked many, many long years putting in time thinking about this topic. And to me, sometimes the fine details so much that I'm like kind of a little, I don't have that background. So I'm like going
Right.
well, there's 9 licenses in this particular part and this and that. And then I go, wait a minute. All you're saying is they can get licenses.
Right.
It just needs to be controlled. It can't just be
Right.
willy nilly. So, but we have one last topic
So-
I think we have to dive into, right?
The one last thing that question 3 does, and I know this is going to sound really silly, but it allows, by the way, it allows a store, a restaurant, a bar, an event venue, whatever you want to target. It allows them to accept an out-of-state driver's license or an out-of-state ID. Believe it or not, Massachusetts is the only state left which does not reciprocate for other states for the purchase of alcohol, accepting their identification.
You can, with full protection, accept a Massachusetts driver's license, a passport, or a military ID,
Active military ID.
but you can't take an out-of-state license
Nope.
without the potential for insurance or other things to hold you responsible
absolutely.
for it.
As Rob will
Absolutely.
tell you, you can take it, but now
You do it at your risk.
Right.
it's
And,
all on you.
yeah, and if your insurance provider finds out about this, your rates are probably going to go right up.
But
Right,
this would
because-
allow us, like every other state in the United States,
Every other
to
state.
take an out-of-state license with some amount of,
You have at least a defense. So
Right.
if something happens, and let's say you had to go before the ABCC, which is the controlling body of alcohol laws, right? If I walked in there and said, I have this problem, and they said, well, okay, what was the license you took? And I said, well, it was a Rhode Island license. They stopped me right there.
Well, by default, it says in the statute, by default, you're guilty.
I'm guilty. They stop it right there and say, you're guilty. We don't need to
It's strict
discuss-
liability. It's
Yeah.
strict liability.
So-
The way that the statute is designed. But to a point here, missed in this is that in Massachusetts, you can buy cannabis with any government issue ID, but you
from any
can't.
state.
But from anywhere, not even any state,
Right.
and you cannot rely on a Rhode Island. We're a state with what, 6 borders?
I know it's just, you could drive across the state up in north and south in like what, 2 hours or something like that. It
Well-
might take you 4 going the other way, but that's
Well,
it.
nobody comes to Massachusetts as tourists.
Yeah,
Nobody
we don't have a
vacations
choice.
here, and
No.
there's no colleges or universities that people would have an out-of-state
crazy.
ID.
It's
That's
crazy.
just nuts that this
We've
has
been trying to fix this for
for years,
5
yeah.
legislative sessions,
Well, we've been
10 years.
We've been actually MassPac has been doing it longer than that.
Yeah.
The only reason we actually got passports in is a while back. We had the World Cup here, and they finally let us pass so that the people were coming from foreign countries. And there's the weird part: the people who are coming from foreign countries could have a beer, but technically
But
somebody from
Rhode
Rhode Island
Island
couldn't.
which many people might consider foreign.
Yes.
country, but they're their own.
You digress.
I'm just making a joke. I
Yeah,
love
I'm
Rhode
from-
Island,
I'm from
and I
Rhode
work
Island,
in
yes.
I work in Rhode Island.
from
And I
Rhode
have
Island.
a lot of I rent a
So-
lot of
so-
stuff in Rhode Island. So
There it is. And I think what you bring up, Rob, is even better, is that now we have cannabis now that's for sale. They can take it out of
They
state.
can take anything they want,
Anything they want.
basically.
So why can't, a liquor store take that? And by the way, now with real IDs coming online and everybody, but
Yes.
by May has to, if they
Yeah.
want to travel by plane or something, has to have a real ID. There is more of a standardized form, and it's also harder to fake
Yes.
as a real ID.
Well, there's also, to your point, there are 2 chips in a Massachusetts ID, and in every other state ID, there's at least one, probably 2 chips in them too now. Everything is chipped.
Right.
So that comes up in the scanner. Most stores in Massachusetts have some kind of a scanning device to check IDs. And so it comes up there as well.
Yeah. And
But in addition to that, stores train their staff. I know this, I said it earlier in another
Right.
segment, but we do an alcohol beverage training course through MassPack. I'm the administrator of that course. Stores train their staff to know how to deal with IDs, including out of state IDs.
right. And even to what to look for and all that type of stuff. So
Yeah.
there is the machine or the scanner.
Our training course, by the way,
is the backup.
I know this was certain. I mean, it's kind of bragging about this a little bit, but our training course is actually better than almost every other state's training course. I would say that's probably the best in the country.
So
Well,
you're saying that there's 3 chips, the 2 in the card and the chip on our shoulder
There we
from
go.
Massachusetts being
Exactly.
the
That's
best.
right.
So
We're the
okay, all
best.
right.
What do you want? And the good
Here's my
part,
ever-ready battery right there.
well, the good part is that your training session that you do give, and that is all based on Chapter 138, which is the controlling law.
Are there ever-ready
Massachusetts.
batteries anymore?
No, I don't know.
No, but you're
So-
starting to glaze over. I'm
Okay.
starting to glaze over
So-
with the 130. But
But no, but I'm
this is-
saying
to me,
but
this is all common sense. It's just been made
Right.
crazy and confusing by people who want to like muddy the waters.
that's all they have to do, Randall, is muddy the
Okay.
waters.
That's what they're trying
So
to
I
do.
would like to see a little quick recap on what we're talking about on those 4 items.
Let's go through that, and I think that's real important. But let's
Okay.
remember what we just told you. This is all that 3 does. So if somebody says it does something else, it's
doesn't.
not. It does not. We've looked at it.
Okay,
We've had
can I
other
take the
people-
first one?
Sure.
All right. The first thing that I think we covered was we want people to expand and be able to come in and do business in Massachusetts, but you want it under a controlled thing. And this has to do with the licenses. Nothing gets taken away, but we're going to allow a kind of controlled growth that favors some stability instead of just like a huge tipping the teeter-totter in the favor of out-of-state interests that are putting a lot of stores into the state.
And it will give convenience to consumers.
Okay.
It actually
so that-
supports competition, not prevents it. It actually supports competition.
All right. So I got the first one. So what else is there? There was just we just
The
covered
the fines and penalties.
Yeah.
Are supposed to be punitive, and they're basically work around the same problem for everybody. You don't break the law, but if you break the law, here's how it's going to be done. It's going to be on your gross sales, and it's the same for everybody. And it's one of those type of things. It's supposed to change your behavior. It's supposed to make you think about selling and how you're selling and your training. It's supposed to make you do all of those things.
You're supposed to be a responsible retailer.
right. If you're serious about alcohol and you want to be serious about alcohol, you can't just segment it away into a small portion of yet another way that you can make a profit in your store. It has to be important to the store, and also you'll get fined or punished appropriately for just
Right.
not taking it seriously.
All right. And the next
Okay.
thing it does, no self-checkout.
No self-checkout. That's pretty straightforward. There's a bunch of reasons for that, but really, who likes self-checkout?
Self-checkout is one of those type of things is everybody jumps on that ID part of it, but there's much more involved when you check somebody out of the store. So you can't do those things through self-checkout. Self-checkout's out.
Yeah.
Shouldn't be done anyways.
And tons of examples of abuse and problems
that are going on right
already
now.
in the works.
Right?
Okay.
Okay. So now we just
IDs.
covered the last one.
Yeah.
Which was IDs.
I don't want to see anyone having a real problem with this, including the bigger box stores or out-of-state concerns, because you'll be able to take anyone's ID. I think it helps everybody,
It does.
but it also lifts some of the burden or the confusion, because I saw just the other day somebody in a store that was a graduate student here trying to buy something with a relatively local but out-of-state ID, and getting into an argument, they had to turn away the business, which I think just drives it to New Hampshire or someplace else where they're frustrated because they can't buy something even though they're legal age with a legit ID from their state.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so that you just summed everything
I
up
think it's good.
pretty much in a nutshell.
Thank you.
So thank you very much, Randall Berg.
Well, I would go, yeah, I don't know. I think that when people try and muddy the water and create all this confusion around it, and then you go and you start reading the bill, which to me is like doing extra homework, and I don't want to do that. But like when you start to try and take it apart, the basic context is that there are people who are not interested in Massachusetts that want to play and do business here and take money out of the state. And this is people from Massachusetts proposing some things that they think are very reasonable to help do a little bit more control and stability to this
As you
process
expand,
happening.
right? Exactly. And here's sort of the breakdown. Over 700 stores have put this together, and they are all on the side of voting yes.
And from Massachusetts.
And from Massachusetts, you have one concern that's an out-of-state corporation that's trying to muddy the waters that wants you to vote no. I mean, it sort of writes
That's
itself.
throwing millions of dollars from out of the state.
Which ironically is what all of our laws are put in place to prevent.
Right.
Here they
Right.
are, and then irony on top of the irony is that they're the filers of the legislation in play this session that blows apart the regulatory system.
All right, we're just about out of time. So as we leave, we want to just say, when it comes down to your vote and you see those questions, vote yes on 3, please. Help your local mom and pop, help your local store that you
Help
know
your
and love.
selection, help yourselves.
Right.
Help Massachusetts. Vote yes on 3.
Please vote yes on 3. And
Thank
please
you very
vote.
much.
Please vote.
Please.
Please vote. Yes, anything. Thank you very much. That's it.
Great.
I think it was better.
I think it was better. Yeah, I think it was more coherent. Now, if I do this right, it'll be better than that. So let me stop the recording.